Welcome, everybody, to For Well Place's 13th Trail Chat. My name is Will. I'm based on Dharawal land in Port Kembla, just south of Sydney. My pronouns are he, him. I work for Well Places. We put on these monthly chats. Before I do anything more, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of this land and pay our respects to elders past, present, and emerging. Always was, always will be Aboriginal land. It's a bit chilly here today, so I don't have my For Well Places t-shirt on, unfortunately. The other thing I wanted to do before we started, just in case I forget, is just to announce that For Well Places' signature event, the Pilliga Ultra, we are just about to launch registrations for our second Pilliga Ultra, which will be on September the 9th this year, 2023. Pilliga State Forest is a beautiful state forest up in northwest New South Wales. It's called the Lungs of New South Wales, and it's currently under threat from a pretty epic coal seam gas development. So as trail running activists, that's our signature event to try and build awareness and raise some funds for the campaign to stop CSG in the Pilliga. So put that date in your calendar and keep an eye out for when the registrations go live, the Pilliga Ultra. All right, moving right along. We are stoked this month to have as a special guest the trail and ultra runner from the Central Coast. And I just want to read some of the excellently named runs that our guest has been a part of. She's won the Delirious West, the Unreasonable East, and the Irrational South 200 milers. She's also taken part in the famous or infamous, depending how you feel, and mysterious Barkley Marathon, which I'm definitely keen to talk to her about. But please welcome as our special guest, Melissa Robertson. Thanks for joining us, Melissa.
Hey, thanks for having me.
No,
Did that come through okay?
Yes, can hear you fine. Melissa, as part of the bio that you sent through, it ended with Melissa likes running ... a lot. The first thing I wanted to ask was, how did you find out in the first place that you really like running a lot?
I guess I did bushwalking, and then I actually did obstacle racing a bit until the obstacles got a bit too heavy and a bit too high. And I only really went well in the races because I could run. And yeah, I just transitioned into running. I've always been bushwalker, and it just seemed like a natural progression. And my dad was a runner as well. Not that I ever ran with him. We just went to the races and did other things. I saw a lot of Jenolan Caves during 6 Foot Track. Never saw the race, saw a lot of the caves.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
And from there, yeah, I mean, I guess people
just got longer.
Yeah, how do you go from there to participating in 200-mile runs? I guess that's possibly a long answer.
Not really. I guess I just wanted to. So before I did my first road marathon, to make sure I could run the distance, I ran around the lake, which was 50K. I figured if I could do that, I could do a marathon. So I went and did a marathon. And I think it just became a natural progression. Like, we have a run on the Central Coast called the Great North Walk Ultras. And that was my first proper ultra. I went into it with the intention of not only finishing it, but winning and breaking the record of the 100K. So I trained on the course for months because it's local, and went into it, achieved that goal. And then the following year, was naturally, the progression was to try the 100-miler, which I failed at miserably, got dehydrated, ended up on a drip 100 Ks in, and that was the end of my race. So I learned a lot, and it's kind of just grown from there.
You ended up on a drip.
Yes, I was very dehydrated. They were pulling me out of the race regardless. They actually weigh you in that one, so they check you haven't lost too much weight as you're coming into the aid stations. And I lost, I think it was 6% or something. It was a significant amount of weight between the last weigh-in and that weigh-in. So, and I was just dehydration.
Wow. I don't want to jump off on a tangent too early, but I'll come back to Hillary, who has given apologies, has specifically asked me to ask you about training for a 200 miler, which is related, but I'm going to park that because I need to try and stay on track, because if I don't, then we'll all get completely lost. But wow, that's intense. And I just wanted to, before we go into other stuff, just so you're based on the Central Coast, but just give us a sense of where you're based, what your local trails are, and what you kind of been up to lately.
So I'm based at Long Jetty, which, I don't know, suburb on the Central Coast. It's kind of between the lake and the ocean. There's a long jetty. There's like 3 of them. And my regular weekday runs area through Wirrabillong National Park, which goes from Shelley Beach and just follows the coastline south up to Cromarty Lookout and then back. So that's like my standard 10 and a bit K. And where I live is also surrounded by national parks. So I think we've got like 5 national parks and a couple of state forests. And that's where I play on the weekend. Or even through the week, we use actually, we're using council land at the moment just to do our hill repeats on. We've got a nice little hill out at Kangiangi that's 1.4K. We just run up and down that. We used to be out in Rimba State Forest, but the road got a bit washed out, so we relocated. So yeah, lots of national parks, and also for something like Delirious West, where there's a lot of sand running, because I'm right near the coast. I just go from home and just run north. And then turn around, and often I'll come back on the bush trail zone just because I get a bit sick of the sand.
Yeah. Sand's intense.
Oh, yeah, it can be. I pick my tides a little. I'm a little bit soft. It's not like I run at high tide. I mean, I don't want to make it too unpleasant.
Actually, when you're speaking, I reckon there's quite a bit of similarity between where I live and where you live. And bizarrely, we've got a lake right here that's 42 kilometers around, so it's a nice marathon size.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love the beach trails and the sandy trails. And okay, so I might jump into that question I was talking about earlier. So you mainly running on the weekends, are you working full time? How do you balance all this out?
Yeah, so I work full time. For most of this, I was actually commuting while training. It's the work from home's only really come into play since COVID. So prior to that, I was commuting up to 4 hours a day, so 3 to 4 hours a day, which meant a lot of early morning runs. Now it's a bit easier, so I get a bit more sleep. But I'll generally do max out about an hour and a half before work or after work for my training runs through the week, and then on the weekend, back-to-back long runs on Saturday, Sunday. But I start them, most of them, in the early hours of the morning, just to get them done and fit everything in. Also, it's not bad training. Like coming into an ultra, running at 2 a.m.'s kind of the standard. So I'm just used to what the world's like at that time, so it doesn't worry me.
Hey, on that note, I'm thinking of a question from our last trail chat. What head torch do you recommend?
I use 2 head torches. I have an A-up and also a ferri.
An A-up and a ferri.
Yeah, they're the 2 that I use. I alternate between them. The A-up's a little bit heavier. I think it's 700 lumen, but it has twin lights and it gives quite a good light. The batteries are a little bit chunkier, but it has a really nice, it sits on your head really nice. And also just heavy duty. I have not managed to destroy this. So that's like the batteries I have to replace every so often, but I'm pretty good at destroying things that I use for trail running. And the ferri is 1,000 lumen. The light probably isn't quite as good. Just how it shines on, I don't know. I guess it's how the shadows and everything it casts.
Yeah.
And not quite as tough, but the batteries are more of a common battery. So I just have a lot of those batteries. So for the longer runs, I'll generally switch between the 2.
Yeah, nice. Yeah. Excellent. I'll find who asked that question from the last chat and forward that on, because it was a good yarn last time. And hey, before, when you said talking about where you're training and doing your hill runs and everything, who did you mean by we?
Oh, my friends, whoever's coming. We have like a little,
cool.
Yeah, we have a little chat group on Facebook. I just put, I don't actually post a session, because you get less people if you post a session. You just tell them what time to show up, and then they only get to find out the session. So we do the warm up down the road, like under a tunnel, then back up, and then we head off to the hill. And you don't get to find out the session until we're headed off to the hill, and you pass the cars just in case you try to escape.
Nice. That's a super helpful tip.
Well, yeah, there was two of us this morning. There was like Liz and Gus came out to do hills, so it was, a nice little group.
Excellent, excellent. But there is a trail running group, like in a trail running community you're a part of. Yeah. What's the group again?
Oh, I'm in Terrigal Trotters on the Central Coast, so it's
Terrible
not
Trotters.
specifically trail running. It's they're a total mix. There's all road runners in there and stuff as well. But they have a regular meetup at 6 a.m. every Saturday at Terrigal.
Oh, cool.
So I go to there at different times. Often I'm doing longer runs, so sometimes I'll just run through and continue on.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'll actually do the runs. And I also ran a lot with Wooters Runners up in Newcastle when I was working up there. So I'd join them on their Friday night trail runs. It's very similar to Trotters. It's a similar style of anyone's welcome, come have fun. We just want to share our passion with people.
Yeah. Awesome. Shout out to the Trotters and the Newcastle
Wooters.
The Wooters. Nice.
Yeah,
one.
they woot. It's woot woot. They do the owl thing. Owl's their thing. So it's like they woot like owls and make little owl eyes. So it's actually pretty cool. If you're in a race, you can you see someone else with the orange wooter shirt, you can go woot woot, and it's like an encouraging thing.
Yeah.
I like it.
That is cool. That is cool. Awesome. All right. I think we need to just nerd out a bit and ask you about the Barkley, if that's cool.
Sure.
I'm still relatively new to trail running in particular, but even kind of running. So I'm really loving finding out about all these incredible races. And I have watched one of the first things I watched was the doco on the Barkley. I can't remember what it's called, but it's kind of the main one that's on.
There's a couple of them. There's the Where Dreams Go to Die and The Race That Eats Its Young.
Yeah,
they're the two main ones. I think one's on like Netflix and one's is on YouTube. So you can generally track them down.
Yes. Two doco names that that really give you a sense of the pain that will be involved. But can we start from the beginning? How did you even go about applying to enter the Barkley?
So the entry process is like this secret thing. One of my friends, she's really good at Facebook stalking. So we figured out someone that we knew that had all the details, and they just passed them over to me. And so it's pretty well known. You send off an essay as to why you want to go in Barkleys and why you should go in Barkleys. I can't really write an essay. I just wrote a limerick and then put some other stats. And yeah, that was pretty much it. You hear back, and I was actually on the wait list for Barkleys. So I was fifth. There's 40 people that get into it, and then there's a wait list. Might be about 50 people or so. I can't remember now. And I was fifth on the wait list this year, so I didn't know if I'd get to go, but it was fairly high on the wait list, so I was kind of like, oh, maybe. Anyway, I found out about 3 days after I finished Delirious West, and I had 3 weeks, I think, to get over to the States. So it was a bit short notice, but it was kind of like, I'm not trained for it, but I might as well just go have a crack.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, and have a crack. Oh, actually, I'll come back.
Go for the experience.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Oh, 100%. And for folks who haven't who aren't across the Barkley, can you just give a bit of a description of it's basically known as one of the toughest runs on the planet, but give us a sense of where it is, how long it is, the terrain.
Yeah, so it takes place in Frozen Head State Park over in Tennessee in the USA. It's 5 laps of an insane course where part of it's on a trail, most of it's not on the trail. And so you've just got a map you have to copy from and then follow it to find the books each lap and rip out the page that corresponds to your bib number. But I have no idea how far each lap is because you're not allowed to carry any electronics. So there's no GPS or anything, which I would have loved because I would have loved to see where I went when I got lost. They actually give you like a cheap $10 watch to wear, and that's all you have.
So there's no wearing your own watch or anything like
that? No watches, no phones, none of that.
That makes sense because I've never seen I've never seen a Strava map of the Barkley. That makes
sense. You wouldn't. I think earlier on I have seen videos on YouTube where they're carrying GoPros and stuff, so it must have been allowed at some point. I think the watch though never was.
Yeah, right. Also the given you're off trail, I mean, each participant could run quite radically different distances given.
Oh, totally. Yeah, depending on their navigation skills. And you are meant to follow a set course off trail, but I mean, depends on your navigation skills.
Yeah. And yeah, and the idea is there's a book at certain points.
Yep. So there
Could
was
be any
13
random
books
book.
throughout the course that you have to hit. And I suppose like in orienteering and road going, that'd be your controls.
Yep.
The only difference is you pull out a page. So if you bib number 3, you pull out page number 3 at each book. Yep. And then you return with a stash of 13 page number 3s.
Yeah. And you finished a loop, yeah?
Yeah, but I was way over time. Like it was not a quality loop.
Oh, mate. Oh, look, you're a classic talking yourself down. I think it's extraordinary that you finished a loop. Well done. Like watching that doco. Yeah. And sorry, so the pages are the evidence when you get back to that you finished the loop. Yeah. And also, okay, so you find out that you're in, you find out 3 days after the Delirious West. That's hardcore. 3 weeks to get over the States. And then can you explain, like when you rock up, what's the kind of check-in process? And, I know there's, the horn to get things going. Can you explain how that process unfolds?
Yeah, so he basically books out the entire campground for the day before. We actually got there I'd booked a campsite a couple of days earlier as well, just because I didn't really know what to expect. But Laz books out the entire campground for the day before. Everyone kind of rocks up at various times. He opens Rego whenever he feels like. This is his world now, so it's whenever he feels like. Everyone shows up with their little number plate or whatever he's requested, if they've already brought a number plate, like a repeat offender. There's a master map that's kind of drawn out, and you get some instructions on where to find the books. The instructions are pretty wordy, but not necessarily useful. And then it can start anytime between midnight and midday, and that's when he sounds the conches 1 hour before it starts. But you don't know when it will be in that time period.
That is, I mean, I don't think I'd ever get into the Barkley because I don't think I probably should for my own health. But anyway, but if I did, it kind of, I wonder how many runners are a bit like me in that I'm a little bit, I don't know if OCD is the right word or whatever, but, I love to know when things start. I love to plan.
That's all part of his game. He just likes, I think I had my friend came over with me, and she was up there, and she said like he'd keep walking around with conch, and he'd like stand up and stretch just to see people react, and then he'd sit back down. And so she actually hung out all night, because I'm like, I'll need to get some sleep. Like, you have to still sleep, and someone has to notify you. You don't want to sleep through it, and it is unnerving. The whole thing is, to be honest.
And what did you do? Well, so I was going to ask about sleep, but also just food, like, because, I like to have a certain amount of food a certain amount of time before a race starts. Did you, like, you're just going to have to kind of keep fueled to a certain point, yeah?
No, I just had dinner, and then, I mean, I don't know, I had something to eat an hour before, and that was that. I wasn't, I mean, you're not charging off. It's not like a marathon or something where you got to go into it really correctly fueled. This is slow. Think more like walk running. It's intense, but it's not fast. Like you can fuel while you're hiking, and you can fuel on the downhills. Like, you don't have to go in fully fueled and prepared.
Fair call. Fair call. And yeah, actually, I'm not sure if we covered it before, but I mean, I don't know if you know the elevation, but it's literally straight up, straight down, and then just repeat. Yeah. So
it's actually kind of cruel. Basically, it books at the top of the hill, there's at the bottom, but the hills are like massive. I don't know what they are, because everything was in feet, and I couldn't quite. I don't get feet, but it was like you just spend an hour hiking up a giant hill where your calves are burning, and some are so steep. Like, I had to have poles. Like, if you didn't have poles, you'd be using your hands to scramble up. It's pretty insane. We don't have, I mean, we have hills like that here, but they're covered in trees, and because it's deciduous, you're just going straight up. So
Yeah.
it'd be like, I don't know if you know Buffalo Stampede. That's that race down at Bright. That's probably the closest we have where
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
just those insane climbs up to clear spot or up mixed track or something like that. That would be the closest. Just think bigger,
Yes,
longer.
yes. Yeah, no, I know the Stampede, but I've never done it. But I know that's known as pretty brutal.
This is
Yeah.
a podcast Melissa's doing for her ultra running.
Oh, sorry, what was that?
Oh, I think she needs to be muted. That's Detta. She's describing what she's listening to.
Oh. Excellent.
I know Detta, it's fine.
Ah, brilliant, brilliant. Cool. So I just had something else I was going to it might come back to me. So did you, like, with that in mind, did you have any slips or falls, or like how did you go on the run?
Oh, yeah, slipped over, but not. I mean, mostly it's just sliding. There was a whole like intentionally sliding too, because sometimes that's the quickest way to get down. So nothing that I was injured or anything. And in the documentaries, you were saying like they carry on about the brambles, the like spiky things. Yeah, it's nothing. We've got lawyer vine. We've got like all our bushes spiky. I went to him like, you're fine. I can handle this.
Oh wow, okay.
So it's from Australia, the spiky vines are nothing.
Yeah, that's cool to know.
The worst it did was like it tangled in my beanie and ripped it off, and I just got the beanie back and continued on my way.
Cool. Did you, like, I know, you said you went there for the experience. Were there moments of joy? Like, did you actually get to enjoy it?
A little bit. It got really cold overnight. And so like well below zero, and there was all these like frozen things. And
wow.
I'm not used to ice and cold, so I spent a lot of time like touching. I really want a phone to take photos of like frozen waterfalls and stuff like that. It was so fascinating because it doesn't get that, like, it'll get below zero here maybe, but only -1 kind of. So yeah, I actually had part of it, I had a bladder obviously in my pack, and the hose of the bladder froze, so I couldn't get water out through the night, and I didn't know what to do because it's not a situation I have. So I'm like trying to rub it and blow it and all this stuff, and then I just gave up. But there's like a heap of streams there. Again, not like here. So there's fresh water. So it wasn't an issue. I'm like, I could just get water.
Yeah.
So I just drank our streams till it defrosted. But yeah, I quite enjoyed seeing the frozen waterfalls, and I was stabbing the ice with like my poles, and yeah, I was pretty distracted.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, what a shame you couldn't have your phone just in terms of the photos.
Yeah, I just want photos, but couldn't have no photos.
Well, I guess, I mean, yeah, then stopping for photos and stuff is, probably not the idea.
I'd still stop for photos.
Yeah, I would too.
I mean, I'm also like having to read a map, and there is quite a bit of stopping as you're trying to figure things out. Like you're not just running because there's not a course marked. So you've got to run, then stop, analyze the map, and then maybe hike or run a bit more.
Yeah. Shane's just said there's an Australian version called Unbreakable in June near Marysville in Vic. Oh, so Shane, that's an Australian event.
Yeah, it is. It's based on the Barkley. I think it was set up so it hasn't been as hard the first year or two. But it's based on that, and I slept through the horn the first year and had 50 minutes to get ready because people forgot I wasn't there and I was still asleep. So
you were going to be involved, but you slept through the start?
Oh, I did it the first year. I slept through the horn though. It was in the middle of the night and I didn't hear it.
Oh, I love Marysville. I'm from Bendigo originally. That's that'd be a beautiful terrain, yeah.
Yeah, probably not as tough as the Barkley. Most of it you could do on track unless you chose to go off, but he's probably made it harder each year, I think.
So did you have to follow a course? Like, were you allowed on or off track depending on the route you chose?
Yeah.
Okay. So Barkley, you couldn't make a choice. You had to go by what it said. on or off the track. But I
Yeah.
like that. That sounds nicer.
Good one to go and use as a training run for next time, Melissa.
Yeah.
I'll just go do it for fun. I think there's one in New Zealand too.
Yeah, the Revenant.
Yeah, that's a one. That one's
Right.
meant to be really hard. I
Wow.
don't know if they've ever had a finisher on that one.
Now, Melissa, I forgot to check. And I'm getting the different docos mixed up. But were there 3 finishes this year when you did it?
Yes, because the weather wasn't that bad. So while it was really cold's fine. You can deal with that. It wasn't raining or foggy or anything like that. So yeah, there were 3 finishes.
Yeah, that's amazing. Because some years there's none. There hasn't been.
Oh yeah, next year it's going to be so hard for anyone doing it because he's had 3 finishes, so he'll just make it extra hard.
What a fascinating event. Well, if anyone else, we're getting close to, I'll open up for other questions. If anyone else has questions around the Barkley, shoot them through. I just so I don't forget, Melissa, I just wanted to pass on Hillary's question. My colleague Hillary is training for he's keen to do a 200 miler, but hilariously, I think she's not keen to do a 100 mile at first. She just wants to she just wanted your advice on training for a 200 miler and just wanted your honest opinion on should she actually bite the bullet and do a 100 miler first?
There's plenty of people I reckon could go straight to a 200 miler.
Okay.
Mostly because they have big cutoffs depending on what one she's doing. So you can walk a lot of them and still finish within cutoff. Not all of it. You'd be a bit pressed, but you can walk, run it, and finish within cutoff. In terms of training, it's time on your feet. So just a lot of long runs, early mornings, Saturday, Sunday, spending the day out there, or start early in the morning and run to mid-morning sort of thing. But
and what's the
yeah.
Oh, I was just going to ask, what's the longest? I mean, maybe it is 100 miles, but what's the longest distance you'd want to have under your belt? Say you felt confident you could actually complete a 200 miler.
I don't think you'd ever feel confident. The longest I do is probably about like 80 or 90K. I'll do one big hit out. But if I do any more than that, I'm fatigued from my training run, so I can't really train. So it's kind of about 4 weeks out, I'll do something big. So for Delirious West, that one I think ended up about 80K or so. I ran from home, just followed the coast all the way to Newcastle and caught the train back. And It was like, that's my hit out. I just left after work and finished sometime the next morning when the trains were running and came back down.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll do something like that about 4 weeks before the race. And I figure if I can do that, I can do the rest.
Yeah. Awesome. Shane's just asked, do you do full overnight training runs to practice in the dark, the mental aspect?
Probably not deliberately. I think it's more just to fit in around work and things. But it definitely helps. I find some other runners get a bit worried in the dark. They're worried about the navigation or worried about, I don't know, weird noises or something. And it just doesn't worry me because I train so much in the dark.
Yeah, I was going to ask, you must be pretty confident in the dark.
Yeah, I suppose even like my weekday runs at the moment, because of the time of year, I start in the dark, all of them.
Yeah.
And then finish sometime just after the sun's come up. I suppose, don't know if it's probably just not a deliberate choice, but I do recommend it. Like if you have that choice, definitely do some like start after work, head out and finish sometime the next morning, or start at like midnight or 1 a.m. and just run through till light. Just to get the sense of it.
Yes. Yeah, I don't like night running. I've just got really poor eyesight and I just lose confidence. But yeah, I guess like anything, you can actually train in that confidence and that mental aspect.
Yeah.
Al's popped in with a visual. Did you want to ask a question, Al?
Yes, I do have a question. Just checking that you can hear me.
Yep.
Yes. Sorry, Al.
Yes,
go ahead.
You mentioned earlier that you had to pull out of a 100 miler and ended up on a drip because you got dehydrated. I'm aware that that's usually like not drinking enough water, but do you know what like some other factors are that actually contributed to that you could have mitigated?
It would have actually just been drinking. So I wasn't
Okay.
drinking to thirst. And then I just stopped being thirsty, which did not help the situation. It all went downhill from there, and I struggled to get food in, and I struggled to get water in. So it was kind of a combination of things. Also, I was hot. So it was just a beginner mistake. That good learning though.
Mm.
I bet you haven't
Yes.
made that mistake again.
No. Probably the only other thing I do too is I keep water. I always run with just water. So something like Tailwind. I like Tailwind, but I'll treat it as nutrition. So I keep that separate from my water or anything equivalent to that.
Mm.
Mhm.
It's a good tip.
Cool.
Thanks, Al. Melissa Deda asks, what other training do you do through the week?
I do track sessions on Tuesday, hills on like Thursday, a couple of runs just for fun through the week, and I do a bit of strength work and stretching as well. So I'll do like normally about 3 strength sessions just at home. Yeah, and then
What's your-
stretch most nights.
Yeah, nice one. What's your basic strength session? What are you working?
Kind of anything. I do a bit of a mix. I used to go to the gym, but then when they all shut down during COVID, I actually just got an app on my phone, like a training one, and I mix it up with different programs on there. I don't really do running specific. I just kind of like a mix of upper body workouts or legs or a lot of core work. I think it just seems to help, like just makes you a bit overall stronger. Like I could probably do it a bit better and actually focus as strength training, but I don't know. I'm not that worried.
Yeah. No, I'm really committed to strength stuff now because I'm getting on, and it's not about performance. It's just about injury prevention and actually comfort.
Yeah.
You know, like just being able to still be able. Yeah.
Yeah, it feels good to go into a race just feeling that little bit stronger, and I'm sure it helps. Like the upper body workouts, they help when I'm using poles and things like that. It just gives me that bit of extra confidence. And the core ones always do, because it's always something I find. I'm surprised how sore like my abs are after a big ultra. Like they'll start to cramp or something. It's like I'm surprised how much you use them.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Cool. Hey, what's the we're obviously a running group for Wild Places. We obviously love running. What can you think of a moment that brought you, like, what's the moment in running that's brought you the most joy? You know, that moment where you're just like, oh, how good is this? I know you've probably got a million, but are there any that jump out?
I don't know. It's probably anywhere I get to a like good lookout or somewhere that probably when I get somewhere that people can't normally get to, that you've just run in there and you know that it takes someone like 3 days to hike to this place, and you're out on your like training run and you'll just go there and get to enjoy the place and then run home to have a shower.
Yeah.
And their hiking days, I think I enjoy that the most. I also during COVID, because where I was, we were locked down to our suburb, and mine being the Central Coast is kind of large. I spent a lot of time looking at maps, and I was going off to find like the old Aboriginal shelter caves and old places, and I was kind of mapping it out and then running to the location. That I'd have to hike for a kilometer through the bush or something to actually get there. And it's like this place that I know no one's been to for years or decades or something. I was trying to find them, and I quite enjoyed that.
Yeah. I love that feeling. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, Ded has also made the point that strength is very important for bone density, particularly for women.
I agree.
Yep. Nice one. Yeah, I love that kind of feeling of exploring. And hey, up in your area, so for Wild Places as a running group, but we're also an environmentalist group where we love running, therefore we love the places we run. And we want to try and do more to look after the places we run and protect them from any kind of threats. Just wanted to ask, what's the state of the trails up your way, and are there any, I mean, other than climate change, which is this big looming thing affecting everybody, are there any particular threats the trails are facing up there? And are there any kind of community campaigns, you know, to protect and look after the trails?
I don't know if there's like outside threats as much. Because a lot of it's national park, so it's already very well protected. And national park, like they're always doing various works. There's some on my morning run at the moment where they're redoing Crackneck Lookout, and gosh, that's looking really good now. So but previously it was just a giant car park essentially, but now they've put in like nice little tables, and I quite like that. So they do quite a bit of work around where I am. Oh, they also put in new toilets, which is very handy on various trails. That's exciting. I suppose in the state forest they do the logging, but that's kind of the side effect of we get the state forest to play in, so that's a cost of it. But they also improve the roads and things like that, like Mount Forks Road up in the Watergans. It had a giant landslide which took it out. It was actually pretty cool to see if you went up there, but they've just fixed that up, so I want to go see the repaired road now.
Yeah.
But most of it's actually pretty well protected around me. There's probably the only controversy is the council selling off various bits of land because it went broke. But I'm not quite sure of all the outcomes of that.
Yeah. No, it's a spectacular area up your way. We with your national parks, I wrote an article recently about down here. We've got this beautiful escarpment that we look up on, but we've got feral deer and a bunch of other animals, and also just weeds. And the national parks folks are awesome, but pretty underfunded. Do you come across deer and invasive species like that up your way?
I have seen some deer up the Watergans, not very often. I have heard that there are quite a few. We get a lot of rabbits. It's rabbits and foxes because it's coastal. So there's always rabbits, like when I go for my morning run.
Yeah.
But they bait for them and the foxes as well. So that's how they're managing those ones. And invasive would also be lantana, obviously.
Oh yeah. Yep.
We get a lot of lantana. There's also bitterbush, but that one doesn't cut me up. The lantana, I have more issues with it.
Yeah. Lantana can be like a hacksaw. Far out.
Yeah. I have a lot of lantana scratches all the time just because it's everywhere.
Yes. Yeah.
But they have there are various pockets where it's not so much national parks, but the community groups, they actually clear out the lantana. So they've done a big batch above Blue Lagoon at the moment. They've put in a new a community walking trail and cleared all the lantana. It looks really nice.
Awesome. That's great. Hey, so it's already May. I can't believe it's already actually before I'll just Shane's just asked Melissa, do you use a crew in the 200 mile or do you rely on the event support?
Use a crew. So I have my friend Kel. She's actually originally from Albany in WA. So her folks are still over there. And when I got closer to the finish line, they were coming out to cheer me on, which is quite nice. Mostly the aid stations are fantastic, and there's certain ones your crew can't get to, so you're relying on them. But having a crew makes it so much easier for things like headlamp batteries and things where you can't quite calculate what time you'll be at a place. So it means I know she'll be there, so I can switch out batteries or things. Whereas otherwise, I have to know if I'll be there in the light or the day. And after 200 odd kilometers, it's really hard to predict those things. I have had paces one year. I enjoy paces, but I didn't have any paces this year, and that also worked just fine. I just used my headphones and did a bit of terrible singing, and that was it.
Nice. So what do you are you training for anything at the moment? And what's on the calendar for the rest of the year?
I actually had a little bit of downtime after Barkley's because I'd done a bit too much. So currently I'm training for a half marathon, Bay to Bay half marathon, which sounds really weird, but I did a half marathon while I was over in Tennessee just before we flew home. I did all right in it. So now I'm the Tennessee Masters half marathon champion, which I thought was pretty funny.
Oh, sweet.
So I figure I'm going to have a crack at the local one. So Bay to Bay half, that's coming up in a few weeks. And then I'm doing Lakes 100 after that, which it was actually their event, it got COVIDed pretty bad. And then I got COVID. So they rolled my entry over to this year, which was quite nice. So I'm doing that one. And after that, will be Human Hobble, 100 miler, which is my favorite 100 miler.
Oh, awesome. Tell us about the human hobble. Where's that?
That one's down at Tumbarumba.
Tumbarumba.
And it heads out from Tumbarumba down to Menace Lake. And kind of when you're running on the lake, you get to see like the snowy mountains off in the distance. And then you come back and you climb up this giant mountain called Granite Mountain. It's actually there was one year I got hit by hail, which was kind of exciting. And it gets like freezing up on top, but there's an aid station almost on top of the mountain, and you come into it, you go over, you go past these like spectacular waterfalls, which I try to get to in the light because it's just a bit over 100k, and see the little waterfalls, head down the bottom, then you come back up on the mountain, then you run over to the peak of the mountain, which the first year I was pretty excited about because I was like, oh, get to see a view. You see nothing. There's like nothing. There's just trees. It's boring. And then you come back to the aid station, then you come off the mountain and down to the finish line. But it's I really like it because it's like a community event, so it's not a big commercial one or anything. And they kind of just love having the runners there and playing on their course. Oh, and you also have to go through the cow paddocks, and the cows eat the markers, so they have to put out flashing lights because the cows don't eat them. So it's actually pretty funny. There's like little pink markers like just torn to shreds. The cows they just destroy the things. And then the baby cows, they do chase me, which I have cow issues, so yeah, I'm kind of trying to get rid of the cows. And you have to get over the electric fences, and at like 100 miles, you try to get over these stiles, and it's some hard work, but great event.
Yeah, geez. Talk about obstacles on the way.
It kind of like it's a really nice one though. Like the variations in the course, like running besides this river and over a suspension bridge and down to the lake, and then coming all the way back. And there's brumbies because of course right near the snowy. So
Yeah.
you don't know what the brumbies are going to do. Mostly I just like put another runner between me and any brumbies, and let them sort it out. Yeah, it's just nice. Also, like there was like old gold mining down there, so you're running through like gold tailings and stuff as well. Like there's all this history in the area.
Yeah.
So it's a bit distracting while doing 100-miler. I like things that distract me.
Yeah, no, that sounds cool. And what's the lakes? Is it 100k or 100 mile? The lakes
100k. So it's 100k. Mostly on goes from Hawk's Nest up to Seal Rocks and back, and most of it's on sand. So I did like a trial of it a few years ago just to see what the course is like, and I made it 80k and then decided to give up on life and got a car because I was like, that's enough training. But yeah, a lot of sand. So they did run it last year, and yeah, everyone said a lot of sand. So we'll see what it's like. I'm looking forward to it. I'm keen to go play.
Are you do you mix up any other forms of, like, do you cycle, swim? Do you work in any of that stuff, or do you just run?
Mostly running. I do a little bit of riding, but not properly. I have in the past. When I get injured, you'll see like my Strava goes to a lot of cycling and swimming.
Yeah.
But generally not. I'm just like riding my bike to get to a run. And swimming, I'm not much of a swimmer. It's a bit off and on. Sometimes I'll swim, sometimes I won't. I'm a bit soft too. I don't like cold water.
I don't think soft could be used to describe you, Melissa. I hate swimming. I can totally relate. But
I'm also incredibly slow. Like I have no natural skill at it. But it is something I'll do mostly if I'm injured. That's when I focus on those things, to kind of just to stay active.
Yeah, take the impact off and stay active.
Yeah.
But that lakes one on sand, that's nuts because sand running is so intense on your calves and that. You're obviously going to up the sand running to prepare, or are you just going to smash it?
I'll probably just maybe a little. Depends on how I feel. Sometimes I don't always want to run just for training. I like to run for fun. So
Sure.
I did do some sand running last weekend. Should probably do some more of this. I'll think about it.
Have a think about it.
It's easy. The sand running is convenient because I go from home and I just head north.
Yeah.
To the long beaches, and there's like a lighthouse on the way, so it gives me something to aim for.
Yeah. That's beautiful sand running your way. Yeah. Now, look, we're getting that hour has completely flown. Folks, did anyone else want to? I'll just double check the chat. There's nothing more there. Did anyone else have any more questions for Melissa or comments? Anyway, feel free to chuck in the chat if you do. Melissa, any big plans next year? Like any kind of epic, like any big events you're kind of planning for medium to long term?
Not really. I kind of need something new. Like I wouldn't mind doing Irrational South. Like they've got a new course for that, which I'm pretty keen on. But no, I'm a bit open. I don't know. I need some new goals, which I haven't yet put in place. It's kind of like when you've done the 3 200 milers, what do you do next?
Yeah.
So I'm open to suggestions, to be honest.
Well, sand running, you were going to think about that?
Well, that was just training.
Yeah.
That's just sometimes it's not enthusiastic training.
Hey, if you don't mind a bit of a tangent, what do you do? And feel free not to answer, but what do you do for work? What do you actually do during the day?
I'm actually a software developer for the Australian Antarctic division. So I work on the Antarctic applications for sending people down to Antarctica for their science research and stuff.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it's interesting. I get like, I don't know, random things in that I have to fix or code or whatever. So yeah, it's just in front of a computer all day, which I think helps with all the running.
Yeah, definitely. Although, also the opposite can happen where just sitting in front of a desk all day can also be bad. But anyway, you're doing all the right things to combat that. Hey, does that include any travel to Antarctica?
No, they don't need developers down there. But I do get to go to Tassie sometimes. So the headquarters are just south of Hobart, so I get to go down there probably about every 6 months. And
nice.
yeah, it's pretty interesting. They're always they're always doing stuff. So and there's all different departments in there, so it's kind of it's just interesting. It's one of the more interesting coding jobs I've had.
Yeah, no, that sounds really interesting. That's cool.
Yeah.
What are your favorite trails down in Tassie? When you probably don't get heaps of time down there, do you?
No, I really only get to around Hobart, and I did the Kanani Wellington Trail, the loop one, that I did before work one day myself at like 3 a.m. and realized partway through that I was way over what I should be doing because I was like running in shorts and a long sleeve shirt. Like I'd come down from Central Coast, so I was prepared to have my long sleeve shirt on. Then I hit the snow line, and then it started snowing more. And then on top, there was this complete blizzard, white out. I couldn't see anything. I'm like, uh-oh. So I went for the trail I was trying to get on, and I missed it just slightly. So I was using GPS off my watch. And I ended up on one that ran parallel, and I tried to cut across to the correct trail. But I fell in the snow, and I couldn't get back up because it was really light. And I don't know anything about snow. Anyway, it turns out that's like a tree well, and that's dangerous. But it was only like a bush well, so it was quite shallow. Anyway, I dragged myself back up, got onto my correct trail, and then came down off the mountain. But yeah, it was quite exciting. I was a bit chilly too because I was in shorts, so it was.
In shorts.
Well, I didn't have any other running gear. Like I just ran shorts.
Yeah, my God.
Yeah, but it was, and there was like one part where my headlamp was acting a bit funny. I was like, "Oh, what's wrong with it?" And it was all covered in snow, and I had to like brush it off. And yeah, it was interesting.
Wow, definitely.
So that's probably my favorite run there. And then I just do ones. Was it the rivulet track? I do that quite a bit because I'm staying in Hobart, and that's quite nice.
The rivulet track, nice.
Yeah,
okay.
Just through South Hobart. It's a bit boring. There's like a bit of bike track in it, but I found that if I go off to the side, there's like little trail bits as well.
Yeah, nice, beautiful. Oh well, unfortunately, we probably should wind up, Melissa. Well, you probably need to get back to work. But hey, thanks so much for joining us. That was fascinating and super fun, actually.
Yeah, thanks.
Folks, thanks to other people for joining us. And if you're watching on YouTube, thank you very much for tuning in. Just a reminder, this was presented by For Wild Places. check us out online or on the socials. We've got a camp coming up where there's amazing mentors to meet up with. And I mentioned before, we are in the process of launching the second Pilliga Ultra, which will be on September the 9th this year. We've got traction events going on in different places. Traction, that's trail action, where we pick a dedicated area and help look after and care for the trails we're running on. And check out membership as well for Wild Places, because becoming a member really helps us just do what we do. And that is trying to protect the places we run in, because we love those places. So thanks for listening about my little For Wild Places spiel. But yeah, to finish up, Melissa, we'll end it there. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks.
And all the best for 2023.
Yeah, thanks.
No worries.
Lots more running.
And yeah, if you don't mind, we often, well, we haven't done one yet, but later on, I might give you a buzz and we can have another chat again if you're up for it.
Yeah, totally. Just hit me up.
Awesome. All right. Thanks everyone for joining us. And thank you, Melissa. And everybody stay safe and happy trails. See you later.
Thanks. See ya.